Hey folks, it's DIY Guy 123 here, bringing you another real quick do-it-yourself video. We're changing out this bathroom vanity top, and we're keeping the base. So you can buy tops separately or bases and tops together. So to save some funds, we're going to change the top out, and then we're going to reface the doors. To change this out, it's a pretty simple job. First thing you have to do is make sure that if there's any tile around here, backsplash, it's all removed. You've got the vanity freed up from the wall. If you have to, you can take a knife and run it down there if there's any silicone or any kind of adhesive holding it there till you kind of get it free. Then you want to deal with the plumbing side. First thing you can do, loosen the drain cap. Don't worry about taking this out or separating these things. They won't move at this time. Then you're going to turn the valves off. Now, if they haven't been shut off in quite a while, it might be hard to shut them off at first. So you crack that free, and then whatever not corrosion, but mineral deposits and so on are there, it will basically flush out of the valve. So you want to turn it on and off a few times while the tap is running, then get it to the off position. Now, only turn this off enough to make the water stop coming out of the tap. You don't need to crank on that because it just put undue stress on the valve. So turn it off until the tap stops running, and then do it with the other side. Then you got to remove the nut that holds the hard line. In this case, it's a hard line to the top of the valve. Undo that on both sides, and then when you lift the tank or the top out, these are going to want to come out of the valve, which is what you want, and as well as this drain pipe out of this drain as well. Which is, now that everything is freed up, we're going to lift this up a little bit. Don't just be King Kong and pull it away, because you need to kind of gently separate these tubes. Okay, so I've got a little pry bar under there, and I'm not using this to pry, I'm just using it to hold this top up. And then I've got it separated on this end, and the hammer's holding it there. I did that just gently, and now you can see that this tube is out of the valve, and this tube is out of the valve. And that's good to have a towel there to catch some of the water, because there is something draining out of the faucet right now. It's still being held up, and I don't think it's this. I think it's actually something around here. So I'm going to take a screwdriver and try and clean that out. Might have to use a knife to cut out some silicone. So yeah, there's a bit of silicone holding it up right in this corner. So that's up and out of the way. You want to haul it straight up. We're now to the stage of fitting the vanity top on top of the base. And when we set it in place for the first time, it wouldn't go down. It was up about this far. And why was that? Well, we looked and there was an interference from part of the base right here. So we crudely cut it around the contour of the sink there, and also, and here's another look at what we had to trim. This piece used to run straight across, and we had to trim it out, as you see here. That is now cut, and this now fits in place. So one of the problems that we encountered is the center of the old sink was here, and the center of this sink drain is here. So there's about a two inch difference. That meant that the drain was too close to the wall. It was like this, and so it needs to be like that, right? So I've cut all these pieces. Now I've cut all these pieces. They're not glued up yet. This is an old school trap. The modern ones have a thread here and a threaded fitting there, so you can take the whole elbow off and clean it. This one has just a clean out at the bottom. I happen to have it. I prefer the other kind, but I just happen to have this one. I don't have the other kind in my tickle trunk of parts, so I'm going to use this one up. So basically, there's probably tons of videos on how to glue up ABS, so I won't get into that. But the drain pipe that goes through the wall, I had to cut that a little bit, and I measured it so that when all of these joints are fully glued together, this part, slip yoke, is going to fit nicely underneath that. Before we do that though, we want the sink to be permanently placed. And right now it can slide ahead a little bit and back and so on. So what I'm going to do is take a little bit of adhesive, or you don't even need adhesive, sealant, anything, any kind of sealant, caulking, adhesive. So when you do that, it's going to prevent the sink from moving around. And after that's done, then you can put the drain together. We're going to clean this surface off, and then we're going to put some sealant around it and drop the top back on. Okay, so before you actually glue this down, you want to set the top in place and see if it's level. Here we can see the front is a little bit high. And if I lift up the back just that much, hard to, you can probably see in the camera, just about 3 millimeters it levels out. More importantly than that is side to side and it is perfectly level as is. These shish kebab skewers, if we put one underneath the level, you'll see that it is now perfect. So when we set this in place, we'll put one of those skewers at this end and one at this end, and it'll just support the top till it dries. Okay, we've got the top dropped in place, and now we're gonna put the backsplash and side splash, I guess maybe you call it. Just a pointed note about this, see the gap there? This I'm sure is square, but the walls are not. So there's this gap there, but see how much nicer that looks? There's still a gap here, but it's nowhere near as big as the gap that was there. So again, gravity's gonna hold this in place. Nobody's gonna be standing on this or pulling on it. So I'm only gonna use whatever I have for caulking to hold that on there. Okay, fast forward a little bit. So the project is finished now. I do have the faucet installed and the drain and the flex lines all hooked up, as you can see right there. And yeah, it's pretty straightforward project. Got the backsplash in, got a very thin line of tub and tile seal there, white, and the thin line of it there, which is tub and tile clear. And we put some new hardware, new handles, and new white hinges, new chrome handles on there. So looks pretty sharp. We're happy with it. The top was $400. The faucet was $100. Backsplash was whatever, $20. And the hardware was like $50. So whatever that adds up to be, like $500-600. And we got a really nice setup here, more modern setup compared to what was there. So hopefully this gives you some tips on how you can refresh your bathroom vanity. And it's not difficult, but it does take some time. Good luck with your do-it-yourself projects. If you like my videos, please subscribe.